Most people do not realize how often they speak against themselves. They wake up and say, "I am already behind." They make one mistake and think, "I always ruin everything." They face a difficult moment and whisper, "I am not strong enough for this." Then they wonder why their confidence is disappearing. The truth is simple. Your mind is always listening. Every sentence you repeat becomes a direction. Every label becomes an identity. Every private judgment becomes a wall you eventually stop trying to climb. You may think these words are harmless because no one else can hear them, but your nervous system hears them, your decisions hear them. Your posture, energy, courage, and discipline all respond to the voice you use inside your own head. A man can survive criticism from the world, but if he agrees with it every day, he begins to destroy himself from within. This is why two people can face the same failure and become completely different. One says, "This proves I am finished." The other says, "This is painful, but it is training me." The event is the same. The inner command is different. Your life does not change only when your circumstances improve. It changes when the voice interpreting those circumstances becomes stronger, calmer, and more disciplined. That voice is shaping what you tolerate, what you attempt, and who you believe you are allowed to become. So today, you are not going to learn empty affirmations or pretend that everything is perfect. You are going to learn how to speak to yourself with truth, authority, and stoic strength. Because when your inner voice changes, your standards change, your actions change, your identity changes. It begins moving in another direction. And when your identity changes, your life can no longer remain the same. Long before modern psychology explained the power of inner dialogue, the Stoic philosophers understood that the quality of a person's life depends less on external events than on the judgments carried inside the mind. Epictetus taught that people are disturbed not by what happens, but by the opinions they form about what happens. Marcus Aurelius spent years writing private reflections, not because he lacked wisdom, but because he knew the mind must be trained every day. Even the strongest character can drift if the inner voice is left undisciplined. Notice something remarkable. Marcus never wrote to impress an audience. Most of his words were reminders meant only for himself. He understood that the first person every leader must learn to influence is the person looking back from the mirror. The Stoics did not believe that repeating comforting lies could transform reality. They believed something far more powerful. They believed that honest, disciplined, rational self-talk shapes perception, and perception guides action. Action, repeated over time, becomes character. Character then determines destiny. That means the conversation inside your head is never just conversation. It is instruction. It quietly teaches your brain what deserves attention, what deserves fear, what deserves persistence, and what deserves surrender. If your inner voice constantly predicts failure, your behavior slowly follows that prediction. If it consistently reminds you of your principles instead of your emotions, your actions begin to reflect those principles even during difficult moments. This is the practice we will explore throughout this video. Not motivational slogans, not unrealistic positivity. Instead, 7 Stoic ways of speaking to yourself that strengthen judgment, steady emotion, and reshape identity from the inside out. Because the words you repeat most often are slowly becoming the person you are becoming. By the end of this video, you will not simply have 7 phrases to memorize. You will understand a new way of leading your own mind. Each principle builds on the one before it. Together, they create a single transformation. You stop treating your inner voice as random background noise and begin using it as the quiet force that shapes your thoughts, decisions, habits, and future. Do not expect overnight miracles. The Stoics never promised instant change. They promised that consistent discipline, practiced every day, produces a person who cannot be easily shaken by fear, criticism, failure, or uncertainty. Imagine waking up tomorrow and realizing that your first conversation is no longer filled with doubt, but with calm direction. Imagine facing problems without automatically attacking yourself. That change may seem small, but repeated every day, it becomes a completely different life. If you enjoy exploring timeless Stoic wisdom that helps you build lasting inner strength, subscribe and join this journey with us. There is always another step toward becoming the person you were meant to be. Now, let us begin with the first and perhaps the most important shift of all, the way you speak to yourself when no one else is listening. Application 1. Stop speaking to yourself like an enemy. Pay close attention to the voice that appears after you make a mistake. It is often harsher than any critic you will ever meet. You miss a deadline, and immediately you think, "I'm so lazy." You forget something important, and suddenly you tell yourself, "I never get anything right." One imperfect moment somehow becomes proof that you are an imperfect person. This habit is so common that most people no longer notice it. They assume they are simply being honest with themselves. But there is a profound difference between honesty and hostility. Honesty says, "I made a mistake." Hostility says, "I am the mistake." One helps you improve. The other quietly destroys your confidence. Imagine a craftsman working on a beautiful piece of wood. Every day he strikes it with the right amount of force, shaping it into something useful. Now imagine the same craftsman swinging wildly in anger. Instead of creating, he leaves deep cracks that cannot easily be repaired. The tool has not changed. Only the spirit behind it has changed. Your inner voice works the same way. Discipline shapes. Contempt damages. Your mind works in much the same way. Every repeated label becomes easier to believe. Every repeated belief becomes easier to live. Epictetus encouraged his students to separate events from judgments. The event is objective. The judgment is your addition. Most suffering begins not with reality itself, but with the story attached to it. One afternoon, a young student approached the Stoic teacher Musonius Rufus after failing an important exercise. Embarrassed, he expected harsh criticism. Instead, Musonius calmly corrected the mistake and asked him to practice again. The lesson was simple. Failure was information, not identity. The student's value had not changed because one performance had gone poorly. That same wisdom applies today. Perhaps you forgot your workout. Perhaps your business struggled this month. Perhaps someone rejected your effort. Perhaps you lost money. Perhaps your plans fell apart after months of work. Those events deserve attention. They do not deserve permanent labels. The next time you fail, replace the attack with instruction. Instead of saying, "I am hopeless," ask, "What can I learn before I try again?" Instead of saying, "I always fail," ask, "Which decision should I improve next?" Instead of saying, "Everyone is better than me," ask, "Which skill can I strengthen today?" Notice how different those questions feel. They move your attention away from shame and toward growth. The goal is not to protect your ego. The goal is to protect your ability to act. A man who believes he is broken stops trying. A man who believes he is learning keeps moving. That is the beginning of power, not confidence, not motivation, action. Every time you refuse to insult yourself, you preserve a little more energy for meaningful effort. Instead of wasting your strength fighting yourself, you direct it towards solving the problem in front of you. This is exactly why Stoicism values clear judgment over emotional reaction. Judgment creates direction. Emotional self-attack creates paralysis. When your inner voice becomes calmer, your decisions become calmer. When your decisions become calmer, your habits become steadier. When your habits become steadier, your character becomes stronger. The words may sound similar from the outside, but they produce completely different futures. From this day forward, refuse to become your own enemy. Become your own trainer instead. Correct yourself with discipline. Challenge yourself with honesty. But never strip yourself of dignity in the name of self-improvement. Speak to yourself the way an excellent teacher speaks to a determined student. Firm when correction is needed. Patient when progress is slow. Encouraging without lowering standards. Because every conversation with yourself is either building the person you want to become or reinforcing the person you are trying to leave behind. The first victory is not over the world. It is over the voice that has been speaking against you for years. And once that voice begins to change, something else changes with it. You stop seeing yourself as someone who must constantly be fixed. You begin seeing yourself as someone who is capable of growing. That new voice prepares you for the next transformation, because once you stop attacking yourself, you are finally ready to stop speaking the language of fear and start speaking the language of direction. Application 2. Replace fear with instruction. Fear has a strange way of taking control of your inner voice. The moment something uncertain appears, your mind begins creating stories instead of solutions. What if I fail? What if they reject me? What if I embarrass myself? What if everything goes wrong? Notice that none of those sentences tells you what to do. They only magnify uncertainty until taking action feels impossible. That is why fear is rarely defeated by courage alone. More often, it is defeated by clear instruction. Imagine driving through dense fog at night. You cannot see the entire road ahead, but you can still see the next few meters. If you refuse to move until the whole journey becomes visible, you will remain parked forever. If you simply follow the small stretch of road you can already see, you eventually arrive at your destination. Life works in much the same way. Fear constantly demands certainty. Wisdom only asks for the next step. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly reminded himself to focus on the duty directly in front of him. He did not try to solve tomorrow before living today. His private journal reveals a man who kept bringing his attention back to the present responsibility whenever anxiety tried to pull him into imagined futures. That habit matters just as much now. Before an important presentation, many people repeat, "Don't mess this up." Before a difficult conversation, they think, "This is going to be a disaster." Before starting a new business, they whisper, "Maybe I'm not good enough." Those thoughts feel natural. They are also useless. Instead of speaking the language of fear, begin speaking the language of instruction. Replace "don't fail" with "speak clearly." Replace "don't panic" with "take one slow breath." Replace "what if they judge me" with "tell the truth calmly." Each instruction gives your brain something practical to execute. Each instruction reduces emotional noise. Each instruction turns scattered energy into deliberate action. This is not positive thinking, it is disciplined thinking. Your mind performs far better when it receives clear commands instead of emotional warnings. Elite athletes understand this instinctively. They do not step into competition, repeating every possible mistake they could make. They remind themselves of simple actions. Watch the ball. Keep your balance. Finish the movement. Their attention stays on execution rather than imagination. You can train your mind the same way. Before entering any difficult situation, pause for a few seconds. Ask yourself one question. What is the next right action? Then answer it in one short sentence. Call the client. Open the document. Listen before speaking. Take the first step. Your inner voice gradually becomes less dramatic and more dependable. People will notice that you appear calmer under pressure. What they cannot see is that the calm did not begin outside. It began with a different conversation inside your own mind. And once your inner voice becomes a source of direction instead of fear, you begin trusting yourself in situations that once felt overwhelming. That trust becomes the foundation for something even greater. Because the next transformation is not merely changing what you say to yourself. It is becoming the kind of person whose words naturally create a stronger identity. Application 3. Speak like the person you're becoming. Every person has two identities. The first is the one created by past habits. The second is the one waiting to be built through present choices. Most people unknowingly keep strengthening the first. They constantly remind themselves who they used to be. I've never been disciplined. I'm just an anxious person. I've always struggled with confidence. These sentences sound like observations. In reality, they are instructions that keep the past alive. Imagine an architect trying to build a new house while refusing to remove the old foundation. No matter how beautiful the design looks on paper, the structure can never become stronger than the base beneath it. Your identity works the same way. Every sentence you repeat either reinforces yesterday or builds tomorrow. The Stoics believed that character is not fixed. It is shaped by repeated choices. Marcus Aurelius never described himself as a perfect man. Instead, he reminded himself daily of the kind of man he intended to become. His journal was not a record of achievements, it was a blueprint for identity. That perspective changes everything. Instead of saying, "I wish I were more disciplined," begin saying, "I am practicing discipline today." Instead of saying, "I'm terrible under pressure," say, "I remain calm by returning to my principles." Instead of describing yourself through old failures, describe yourself through present actions. Notice the difference. You are not pretending. You are directing your attention toward the person you are actively becoming. Modern psychology calls this identity-based behavior. The Stoics lived it centuries earlier. Small actions repeated consistently reshape self-image, and once self-image changes, behavior begins to follow naturally. Suppose you decide to become someone who keeps promises. The first promise may be as simple as waking up when your alarm rings. The second may be finishing one important task before checking your phone. The actions are small. The message they send to your mind is enormous. I am becoming someone who does what he says. That sentence quietly changes future decisions, because every fulfilled promise becomes evidence. Evidence becomes belief. Belief becomes identity. Identity becomes destiny. So stop introducing yourself to yourself with yesterday's limitations. Introduce yourself with today's commitments. If this is the person you are choosing to become, write one sentence in the comments that begins with "I am becoming" and finish it with the quality you are building. A simple commitment repeated publicly can strengthen the promise you make to yourself. Do not write it to impress anyone. Write it as a reminder of the direction you have chosen, because identity is not discovered, it is built. And once your inner voice begins speaking from the future instead of the past, another transformation becomes possible. Now you are ready to remove the hidden words that silently weaken your mind every single day. Application 4. Remove the words that make you weak. Not every destructive sentence sounds dramatic. Some of the most damaging words are the ones you use so often that you no longer notice them. Always, never, impossible, ruined, hopeless, forever. These words seem harmless because they appear in ordinary conversations, yet they quietly train your mind to think in absolutes. Once your mind begins believing in absolutes, it stops searching for possibilities. Imagine looking through a window covered with dark paint. Every day another thin layer is added. At first, you still see the sunlight. Eventually, almost nothing comes through. The world outside has not become darker. Only the window has. Language becomes that window. The words you repeat determine how clearly you see reality. The Stoics constantly challenged exaggerated judgments because they understood that emotion grows stronger when language becomes extreme. Marcus Aurelius did not tell himself that life was terrible whenever difficulty appeared. He described events as accurately as possible. By removing exaggeration, he removed unnecessary suffering. Think about how often this happens in modern life. A project fails. You say, "Everything is ruined." One person criticizes you. You think, "Nobody respects me." You skip one workout. You tell yourself, "I never stay disciplined." None of those statements is true. They are emotional shortcuts, and emotional shortcuts almost always lead to poor decisions. Replace absolute language with accurate language. Instead of saying, "I always fail," say, "This attempt failed." Instead of saying, "Nobody understands me," say, "Some people do not understand me yet." Instead of saying, "It's impossible," ask, "What makes this difficult?" Accuracy creates options. Exaggeration removes them. This simple habit changes the way your nervous system responds to pressure. Your brain no longer believes every setback is permanent. It begins recognizing challenges as temporary situations that require thoughtful action instead of emotional surrender. Try this exercise for 1 week. Every time you catch yourself using words like always, never, impossible, or ruined, pause immediately. Replace them with words that describe reality instead of emotion. You will notice something surprising. Your circumstances may stay exactly the same, but your mind becomes quieter, and a quiet mind makes wiser decisions. The strongest people are not those who experience fewer problems. They are the ones who refuse to multiply those problems through careless language. Remove the words that weaken you. Keep the words that guide you. Because when your language becomes more precise, your thinking becomes more disciplined. And once your thinking becomes disciplined, you become capable of something even greater. You become the kind of person who no longer needs an enemy outside because you have already found a wiser guide within yourself. Application 5. Become your own Stoic mentor. There comes a moment in every person's life when advice from others is no longer enough. Your family cannot follow you into every difficult decision. Your closest friends cannot answer every private doubt. Your favorite books cannot speak at the exact moment your mind begins to panic. Eventually, you are left alone with one voice, your own. The question is simple. When that moment arrives, will your voice become your greatest ally or your harshest judge? Imagine climbing a mountain with an experienced guide. Every time the path becomes steep, the guide does not shout, "You're too weak for this." He studies the trail, points towards solid ground, and calmly says, "Place your foot here." A wise guide does not remove difficulty. He helps you move through it. That is the relationship you should build with yourself. The Stoics trained this deliberately. Marcus Aurelius filled his private journal with reminders that sounded less like commands and more like guidance. When he noticed anger rising, he reminded himself to return to reason. When he felt discouraged, he reminded himself that every human being shares the same struggles. When he anticipated hardship, he reminded himself that virtue matters more than comfort. He spoke to himself the way an experienced mentor speaks to someone capable of becoming better. That difference matters. Many people believe self-improvement requires constant self-criticism. The Stoics believed it requires constant self-correction. Those are not the same thing. Criticism attacks the person. Correction improves the action. One creates shame, the other creates growth. Suppose you lose your temper during an argument. Your inner critic says, "You'll never change." Your inner mentor says, "You lost control today." Next time, pause before answering. The mistake is acknowledged. The standard remains high, but hope is preserved. That is exactly how real teachers develop great students. They do not pretend mistakes never happened. They simply refuse to let one mistake define the student's future. Begin practicing this every evening. Ask yourself 3 questions. What did I do well today? Where did I fall short? What is one better choice I can make tomorrow? Answer honestly, without excuses, without insults. Over time, something remarkable begins to happen. Your inner voice becomes calmer without becoming softer. It becomes demanding without becoming cruel. It becomes disciplined without becoming fearful. People often imagine strength as loud, aggressive, and relentless. Stoicism offers another picture. True strength is quiet. It observes clearly. It corrects patiently. It continues consistently. When your inner voice becomes that kind of guide, setbacks lose much of their power. You recover faster. You learn faster. You trust yourself more deeply because you know that even when you fail, you will respond with wisdom instead of contempt. That trust cannot be purchased. It must be earned through thousands of honest conversations with yourself. Become the mentor you once wished someone else would be. Carry high standards. Offer clear direction. Never remove responsibility. Never remove dignity. Because the way you guide yourself today determines the person you will meet tomorrow. And once your inner voice becomes a wise mentor instead of a harsh judge, you are ready for the next step. Now it is time to learn how to use that voice in the moments when pressure is highest and your character is truly tested. Application 6. Speak calmly before every difficult moment. There is a brief moment before every challenge when nothing has happened yet. Before you walk into the meeting, before you answer the phone, before you begin the difficult conversation, before you step onto the stage, before you hear the doctor's results, before you make the decision that could change your future. Most people lose the battle during that moment, not because reality is unbearable, but because their inner voice fills the silence with fear. What if I fail? What if this goes badly? What if I can't handle it? Without realizing it, they arrive exhausted before the challenge has even begun. Imagine an archer preparing to release an arrow. He does not jerk the bow in panic. He slows his breathing, steadies his hands, fixes his eyes on the target, and releases only when his body and mind move together. The calm before the shot is not weakness. It is the source of accuracy. Your mind deserves the same preparation. The Stoics practice this constantly. Before entering difficult situations, they rehearse their principles instead of their fears. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that he would meet difficult people during the day. He did not repeat those thoughts to become anxious. He repeated them so that surprise would never control his emotions. Preparation creates composure. Composure creates freedom. The next time you face a difficult moment, pay attention to your first sentence. Do not allow fear to choose it for you. Choose it deliberately. Say, I only need to handle this moment. Say, I will respond, not react. Say, my character matters more than the outcome. Those simple sentences change your focus immediately. Instead of trying to control everything that might happen, you begin controlling the only thing that truly belongs to you, your response. That is where real confidence is born. Not from certainty, from self-command. Make this your daily practice. Before every difficult task, pause for 10 seconds. Take one slow breath. Repeat one sentence that reminds you of your principles. Then begin. It may seem insignificant, but small rituals repeated consistently become powerful habits. Over time, your nervous system starts recognizing these words as signals of stability instead of danger. People around you will assume you were simply born calm. Only you will know the truth. Calm was built one conversation at a time. If you are committed to becoming that kind of person, leave a comment saying, I choose calm. Let it be more than a phrase. Let it become the standard you carry into every difficult moment from this day forward, because every challenge is also an opportunity to prove something to yourself. Not that life is easy, but that your principles are stronger than your emotions. And once you can guide yourself calmly through moments of pressure, there is only one final transformation left. It happens at the end of each day when you decide which version of yourself will wake up tomorrow. Application 7. End every day by rewriting your inner voice. Every day ends with a conversation. Most people never notice it. They lie in bed replaying awkward moments, unfinished tasks, painful memories, and imagined failures. Without intending to, they carry those thoughts into tomorrow. Morning arrives, but the mind is still living inside yesterday. This is why many people feel stuck. Their circumstances may change, yet the story they tell themselves never does. Imagine a sculptor finishing a long day of work. Before leaving the workshop, he does not smash the statue because it is incomplete. He steps back, studies what was accomplished, notices what still needs shaping, cleans his tools, and returns the next morning ready to continue. He understands that masterpieces are never created in a single day. Character is built the same way. The Stoics believed that every evening offers an opportunity to examine the day with honesty. Seneca wrote about reviewing his actions before sleep, asking himself where he had acted well, where he had fallen short, and what could be improved tomorrow. The purpose was never self-punishment. It was self-education. That nightly practice is just as valuable now. Instead of ending the day with random thoughts, end it with deliberate reflection. Do not ask, was today perfect? Ask, what did today teach me? Do not ask, why am I still not enough? Ask, what kind of person did I practice becoming today? Those questions quietly change the direction of your life. Perhaps you remained patient during a stressful conversation. Acknowledge it. Perhaps you lost your temper. Learn from it. Perhaps you kept one promise to yourself. Celebrate it. Perhaps you broke one. Decide how you will honor it tomorrow. Notice what is happening. You are no longer judging your worth. You are evaluating your practice. That difference changes everything. When identity depends on perfection, every mistake feels like failure. When identity depends on practice, every mistake becomes part of growth. This is how resilient people think. They do not wake up confident because life is easy. They wake up confident because they know they can trust the voice waiting for them inside. That voice no longer says, "You failed again." It says, "Continue." It no longer says, "You're not ready." It says, "Take the next step." It no longer says, "You'll never change." It says, "Change is already happening." These are not empty affirmations. They are truthful reminders rooted in action. You are not pretending to be stronger than you are. You are recognizing the evidence you created through today's choices. Every disciplined action gives your inner voice another reason to believe in your future. Every honest reflection removes another layer of fear. Every quiet evening prepares a stronger morning. This is why the final conversation of the day may be the most important one. It determines the first conversation of tomorrow. So before you sleep tonight, give yourself 5 uninterrupted minutes. Put your phone aside. Breathe slowly. Review your day without excuses and without cruelty. Keep what deserves to be repeated. Correct what deserves to be improved. Then close the day with one simple sentence: I will continue. Not because you are already perfect, but because you no longer measure yourself by perfection. You measure yourself by faithfulness to your principles. That is the quiet power of Stoicism. One conversation, one decision, one day at a time. Eventually, the voice inside your mind no longer sounds like your greatest obstacle. It becomes your greatest source of strength. And when that happens, your life does not change because the world suddenly becomes easier. Your life changes because the person facing the world is no longer the same person who began this journey. Everything we explored in this journey comes back to one simple truth. The quality of your life is deeply connected to the quality of the conversations you have with yourself every single day. Long before your actions become habits, your words become beliefs. Long before your beliefs shape your future, they shape the decisions you make today. That is why changing your inner voice is never a small adjustment. It is the beginning of a new identity. Throughout this video, you learned how to stop speaking like your own enemy, replace criticism with guidance, remove words that weaken your mind, become your own Stoic mentor, prepare yourself with calm before difficult moments, and end each day with honest reflection instead of regret. None of these practices requires perfect circumstances. They require only consistent attention, one sentence at a time, one choice at a time, one day at a time. That is how lasting transformation happens. Quietly, steadily, without needing anyone else's approval. Remember, the world will always offer opinions about who you should become. Some will underestimate you. Some will misunderstand you. Some will never notice your growth at all. None of that matters as much as the voice you choose to believe when no one else is listening. Protect that voice. Train it. Strengthen it. Because it will accompany you through every victory, every disappointment, every success, and every setback for the rest of your life. If this video helped you see yourself differently, subscribe and join us for more timeless Stoic wisdom designed to help you build lasting inner strength, calm confidence, and a life guided by reason instead of fear. And before you leave, I'd love to hear from you. What is one sentence you will start saying to yourself every day from this moment forward? Write it in the comments and let it become a promise, not just to this community, but to yourself. The life you want does not begin when the world changes. It begins the moment your inner voice does. Choose those words wisely. Then live in a way that proves them true.